Good morning, everyone. As we all know that we are all in an educational institution and we deal with different types of children every day. And we all need to understand their psychological needs and developments. So, my topic for today's presentation is Child Psychology, Understanding Developmental Stages. First, we need to see the difference between psychology and child psychology. These are two different terms. Psychology is the science dealing with human nature, function, and phenomenon of the soul in the male. And child psychology is the science that deals with the mental part or interaction between the conscious and the subconscious element in a child. Like the child psychology, we can say that what they learn from their environment, what they think. This is basically child psychology. We cannot tell them to do anything. They observe and they perform. Under this topic, we will cover child development, principles of child development, characteristics of child development, developmental psychology, stages of development, theories of development, different 5 domains of development, and what is the need for child development, and lastly the concluding part. Child development. Change in the child that occurs over time, and this change follows an orderly pattern that moves toward greater complexity and enhances survival. As we grow, there are different levels of growth in us, and that it becomes that becomes complex with the pass of time. There are different periods of development. The first one is prenatal period, from the conception to birth. This period is from the time that the child is in her mother's womb, from the day of birth. This is also a development period. The next is infancy and toddlerhood, birth to 2 years of age. Early childhood, 2 to 6 years. Middle childhood, 6 to 12 years old. And adolescence is 12 to 19 years. The objective of this topic, to understand how children in different ages think. Like children grow, they grow age-wise in an orderly pattern. So what they think in different ages, and to understand how children in different ages learn. They learn from the environment, they learn when they are at home, they learn from the surrounding at home, what the parents are speaking, how they are talking. First thing they learn is their mother tongue, which they hear, or first words. Then when they come to school, they learn something different. So the understanding changes with the different ages. Principles of growth and development. Growth and development are continuous, orderly, sequential processes influenced by maturational, environmental and genetic factors. As we know that growth and development is a continuous process. It does not stop. It is a non-stop process. And it is in an orderly pattern, like we did in the previous slide, the periods of development. We cannot skip, like from infancy, we cannot directly go to middle childhood. It follows a sequence, a pattern. And the environment and genetic factors. All humans follow the same pattern of growth and development. All human beings, we follow the same pattern of growth. Like we are born, then infancy to toddlerhood, early childhood, middle childhood, then adolescence, then adulthood. So this pattern is same from all of us. It cannot change. The sequence of each stage is predictable, although the time of onset, the length of the stage, and the effects of each stage vary with the person. The sequence of each stage, like infancy, birth, middle age, middle childhood, early childhood and adolescence. This is predictable because we know that if a child is born, he or she will grow. Then it will come to the early childhood age, then the middle childhood age, then adolescence, then adulthood. So this is predictable. We all know that the growth period is the same for all. But the time of onset, the time of beginning or learning anything will be different according to the different children. And the effects of each stage vary with the person, and the effects also. Each developmental stage has its own characteristics. Each development, like when the child is born, we cannot imagine that the child is born and he or she will start walking or running. They have different characteristics, but each stages have their own characteristics. Then the characteristics of development. Development is similar for everyone. All go through the same stages and in the same order. They cannot skip the order. Like we did the periods of development, we cannot skip the order of growth. It will go in the same sequence. Development is on earlier learning. Learning sequentially, each skill builds on the last. As we grow, we learn with our growth and development. And learning is in sequence. And we learn in each and every stage, we learn something that is different. Development proceeds at an individual rate. All follow similar pattern, but rate and style is unique to each. Like development proceeds at an individual rate. Like if we see that in standard 1, there are many students, but we see someone is taller in height and someone shorter. So the age group is same, the period is same, but the growth rate is different. The different areas of development are interrelated. Many types of changes happen at once. They are connected and interact within one another. The different areas, each area is interrelated. The periods of development, when the child starts walking, sitting, crawling, then the next stage when it comes, he or she learns to walk, run. So all stages are interconnected. Development is continuous throughout life, sometimes rapid, sometimes slow, but it does not stop. As we know that development and growth, it is a non-stop process. It is a non-stop process and it is a lifelong process. But it can be slow or fast according to the different individuals. What is developmental psychology? When we are doing this child psychology, we need to know what is developmental psychology, how this psychology develops. The scientific study of biological, social, and personality development across the lifespan. This is biologically, it is hereditary. Then social, how we interact in the society environment. And personality development depends on our own self across the lifespan. And the development is continuous. It changes, the style changes, but it is continuous. Development, progressive changes in behavior and abilities. According to the changes, the behavior and abilities of the child also changes. Change may be qualitative or quantitative. Change may be qualitative, different kinds of abilities, or quantitative, different amounts of level of an ability. How the child is performing, how the child is grasping something. That may be different. Changes in functioning may be physical, like body size and shape, brain anatomy and physiology, hormones, etc. Changes in functioning may be physical physical changes, like the brain develops the fastest, other than the other body parts. The size of the body, the shape of the body varies from person to person. Or psychological changes, cognitive thinking abilities, reasoning abilities, and socio-emotional, how they react to the social environment. Developmental changes are tied to age and are generally permanent. These changes that occur in each and every child is according to the age, and it is permanent. It is not temporary. It lasts lifelong. Development could be defined as physical, cognitive, and psychosocial. Physical development is measured by height, weight, the growth of the child, the physical growth of the child. Cognitive, the thinking abilities of the child and the intellectual growth. And psychosocial, the relationship with the family members, relations, and communication with others. How they communicate at home, in school, with elders. The stages of child development. Physical development. The three stages, that physical, cognitive, and psychosocial. Physical development is with brain and nervous system also. The infant's experiences help to fine-tune the brain's responses to stimulation. They are not, the infants, they are not able to speak, they are not able to express their feelings, but they also respond to stimulus. What they hear, what they see, what they feel, they respond accordingly. The motor abilities. Brain maturation allows development of motor skills. The brain develops, and in coordination, the motor skills also develop, and the brain instructs the child how to move from reflexes to coordinated motor, like grasping, walking, thinking, eating. And the stages, the different stages, the play years, the school years, and the adolescence. There are three stages, and we will see the physical growth, the cognitive growth, and the psychosocial growth in all these three stages. The play years, age 2 to 6 years. What will be the physical development, the physical growth? Brain and nervous system. The brain develops faster than any other part of the body. It is the fastest, and it occupies 90% of its adult's weight. 90% of the weight is brains. Motor abilities and perception. Large body movements such as running when they are aged 2 to 6. There are movements, body movements such as running, jumping, skipping, and all improve dramatically. Fine motor skills such as writing and drawing develop more slowly. Like in school also we see the child studying in lower KG or upper KG, the handwriting varies. But when they go to the upper classes like standard 3, 4, 5, and not in 1 also, there is improvement in all the aspects. The school years, from age 7 to 11 years. What are the physical developments the child goes through? Growth is increased strength and heart and lung capacity. Give children the endurance to improve their performance in skills such as swimming and running. In this age group, they have more of strength, and they are more into different skills. They get involved into different activities and skills. Then motor skills. Slower growth might contribute to children's increasing control over their body. They have their control. Now they understand that what is wrong and what is right. They have control over their brain and body. Then physical development among adolescents between the age of 10 to 18. Physical development. Physical growth at some time between the ages of 9 and 14. puberty begins with increase in male and female hormone levels. The physical growth is also affected, and changes in sex organs and secondary sex characteristics. Towards the end of puberty, the young person's potential reproductive capacity. Then the second stage was cognitive development. Cognitive skills, the thinking skills. The infant progresses from knowing his or her world only through immediate experiences that helps her to experiment, like learning by doing. They experience and they do. Like a baby's cry in his or first language. This cognitive development for the play years, age 2 to 6. Cognitive skills, the child becomes increasingly able to use mental representation and symbols. Like the child of 2 years of age, they if they want to express something, they will use symbols, or they will their tone will be different or something if they want. So it changes. Then language. Language abilities develop rapidly by the age of 6. The average child knows 14,000 words and demonstrates extensive grammatical knowledge. And by this, the age of 6, the child is aware of the simple languages, the basic language that they use in their daily life. Then the school years, cognitive development in the school years, age 7 to 11. Concrete operational thought. Children develop the ability to understand logical principles. They now are able to think logically. Why this happened, why this did not happen. What was the reason behind this? They use their thinking abilities. And information processing view. Children are able to organize their knowledge in sequence. And language. Children's increasing ability to understand the structures and possibilities of language. Now, according to their ability, they are able to express their views in 3 languages, mostly 2. In exceptional cases, it is 3. Now, cognitive development in adolescence, age 10 to 18. Formal operational thought. By the end of adolescence, many young people can understand and create general principles and use scientific reasoning. Now, at this in this age group, children are able to create their own thinking and doing something. Adolescent ecocentrism. The feelings of invincibility and uniqueness may prompt them to underestimate risks, for example, with regard to sexual relationship and drug use. Now, psychosocial development. This is related to personality development. The infants transition from total dependence to become independent, totally independent, to increasing independence, understanding self and others, respecting others, much more attentive to the reaction of others. Now, the reactions will vary now because emotionally most of the times, because they will understand what others are talking about them or talking to them. Parent-infant interaction. Parents and infants respond to each other first by synchronizing their behavior. Then the play years. So psychosocial development in the play years. Personality development. The child to boldly and exuberantly initiates new activities. Like we all have, most of us have children, and when we see their activities, they are really experimenting something, but they are unaware that it may be harmful. Understanding self and other parent. They engage in increasingly complex and imaginative types of play, sometimes by themselves and increasingly with others, sometimes among themselves or when they are with friends. Child interaction. As children become more independent and try to exercise more control over their environment, the parent's role in supervising the child's activities becomes more difficult. And at this age, it is very difficult to keep an eye on the child all the time, and it becomes difficult for the parents. The psychosocial development during the school years, personality development, understanding of cause and effect, and the awareness of the actions and attitudes of others make them more susceptible and to reinforcement. Now at this age they know that if they will do some activity, what will be the result, what will be the reaction of others, and they are mostly influenced by the friends, the peer group. The peer groups become increasingly important to children. Now at this age, friends are become more important than the family. Social systems and the child. Children are increasingly aware of and involved in family life as well as in the world outside the home, and therefore are more likely to feel the effects of family, economic and political conditions. The psychosocial development in adolescence. Development of the young person's own sense of self. Now they feel the self, that they have created their own identity. They want to create their own identity in the society, so that people recognize them. The peers become increasingly important to try out new behaviors and explore different facets of their personality, and to interact with members of the opposite sex. It is general in this age. Parent-child relationships. Increased assertiveness or lack of self-discipline and self-control. Now at this age, in most cases we see that the children are become indisciplined. They don't listen to their parents or elders. Now, we were doing the third stage, the psychosocial development. According to Erik Erikson, there are 8 stages of psychosocial development. First one is trust versus mistrust. It is from the age of 0 to birth to 18 months, infant stage. Next is autonomy versus shame and doubt, from 18 months to 3 years of age, toddlerhood. Initiatives versus guilt, 3 to 5 years of age, that is preschoolers. Then industry versus inferiority, age 15 to 13 years, grade schooler. Then identity versus role confusion, 13 to 21 years of age, teenager. Intimacy versus isolation, 21 to 39 years of age, that is young adult. Then generativity versus stagnation, 40 to 65 years of age, middle age adult. And integrity versus despair, 65 years onwards, older adulthood. These are the 8 stages of psychosocial development.
www.learnmytest.com. Erik Erikson adopted the belief from Sigmund Freud that development is characterized by a series of stage-related conflicts between two perspectives. He believed that you must hold both perspectives in order to achieve identity strengths, which he defined as virtues. The first stage-related conflict in Erikson's theory is trust versus mistrust, and often occurs between 0 and 18 months. During this stage, an infant must depend on their parents or primary caretakers for basic things such as food, water, shelter, and emotional needs to survive. Children who can depend on their parents for these needs can trust or count on them, while those who can't may have difficulty trusting others now and later in development. Erickson believed that children who learn to trust their caretakers develop the virtue hope, where they view the world as a good place where people can be trusted. The second stage conflict of Erickson's theory is autonomy versus shame and doubt, and occurs from ages 2 to 4. During this stage, children learn to do activities on their own without the help of their parents. For example, children learn to go to the bathroom on their own or learn to dress themselves. Parents who get upset with their children doing these activities on their own may have children who struggle to be self-sufficient later on in their development. However, parents who let their children solve problems on their own when they are ready for them will have children who have the confidence to do things on their own later in development. Erickson defined the virtue for stage 2 as will, or the child's ability to express his or herself by doing things on their own. The third stage conflict in Erickson's theory is initiative versus guilt, and tends to occur between 5 and 8 years of age. During this stage, children take a step from spontaneously doing things on their own to setting goals and working toward them. Little Johnny may want to learn how to ride a bike because he wants to be able to ride down a big hill in his neighborhood. Erickson argued that many children in early childhood, like Johnny, engage in risky behaviors when they set goals. When Johnny tries to ride down the hill, falls on his bike, and gets hurt, he feels guilty that he did not successfully make it down the big hill without falling. He may go home and act aggressively toward his parents because he was unable to achieve his goal. Erickson argued that children in early childhood can often engage in aggressive behaviors toward their parents and others because they are upset with not reaching their goals. He defined the important virtue of this stage as purpose, or having a goal or reason for performing certain behaviors. The fourth stage conflict in Erickson's theory is industry versus inferiority, and occurs from ages 9 to 12. During this stage, children are more receptive to feedback from adults about their competence and begin comparing their achievement and abilities to peers. For example, children learn whether they are more attractive, a better athlete, or a more superior student than the other children in the class. They may discover things that they are good at and should pursue as a hobby. Children who receive negative feedback from adults compared to other children may view themselves as less competent, which may lead them to have a negative view about their ability and not set challenging goals that require them to perform their best. However, children who receive positive feedback from adults in comparison to peers tend to have confidence they need to pursue goals that they need to be successful later in their development. The fifth stage in Erickson's theory is identity versus role confusion. And Erickson believed that it occurs from 13 to 19 years of age. However, Erickson did state that this stage is often prolonged. During this stage, adolescents are setting boundaries with parents, such as having their own private lives with friends and romantic interests. They are also searching for a place within adult society, which can include a search for an occupation, gender, political views, and religion. During this search, children may often experiment with different identities and viewpoints in order to find their true identity. The sixth stage of Erickson's theory is intimacy versus isolation, and occurs from ages 20 to 39. This stage involves finding a true romantic or intimate partner in contrast to living alone, aka isolation. As such, Erickson defined the virtue for this stage as love, because ultimately the stage involves finding love. The seventh stage of Erickson's theory is generativity versus stagnation, and occurs during ages 40 to 59. When thinking about this this stage, think of generativity as generation, because Erickson defined generativity as giving back to the future generation. This can involve starting a family, raising children, caring for aging parents, contributing to society, for your careers, and being a supportive friend and family member. The virtue of this stage is care, because Erickson believed that success in middle adulthood is about providing care to the important relationships in their lives, such as parents and children. As such, he believed that not having these important people to care for, or not having the means to do so, can lead an individual to feel non-productive or stagnant. The eighth and final stage of Erickson's theory is ego integrity versus despair, and occurs after age 60. In this stage, older adults look back on their life and reflect on whether they lived a happy and productive life. Adults who feel good about their experience in life tend to have a lot of experience to draw upon to help and support others in their life, which is why Erickson defined the virtue of this stage as wisdom. Older adults who are satisfied with their life tend to be happy, while others who felt like they didn't live the life that they wanted may feel sad and depressed. Now let's review Erickson's stages. Stage 1 is trust versus mistrust, and occurs from 0 to 18 months, 0 to 2 years, and the virtue for this stage is hope. Stage 2 is autonomy versus shame and doubt, and occurs often in ages 2 through 4, and the primary virtue is will. Stage 3 is initiative versus guilt, and occurs in ages 5 to 8. The primary virtue is purpose. Stage 4 is industry versus inferiority, and occurs during ages 9 to 12. The virtue for this stage is competence. Stage 5 is identity versus role confusion, and occurs between ages 13 and 19. The virtue for this stage is fidelity. Stage 6 is intimacy versus isolation, and occurs between ages 20 and 39. The virtue for this stage is love. Stage 7 is generativity versus stagnation, and occurs between ages 40 to 59. The virtue for this stage is care. The 8th and final stage is ego integrity versus despair, and occurs in ages 60 and up. The virtue for this stage is wisdom. Remember that the best way to study is to take practice tests.
We saw Erickson's 8 stages of development. There are a few slides, like the first one, infancy, psychosocial development, psychosocial conflict. This is trust versus the first stage, versus mistrust. The major question is, can I trust the people and the child thinks? The child when he or she is an infant? That can I trust the people around me? And basic virtue is hope. The mother feeding the child. Can you give a cite similar example of something different in this age group? Trust versus mistrust and hope. When the child is small.
When the child is small, every time he or she just takes something, whatever comes in front of him or her, and eats it. He finds it and he can eat that particular thing, but then he finds that it is not an eatable thing. That similarly happens in that age group.
And hope.
Whatever he finds, he feels like he can eat it, but that is his hope, but he cannot eat it. If it's a toy or anything else.
Yes. Any other examples related to this? The next is school age psychosocial development. Psychosocial conflict. industry versus inferiority. The question is, how can I be good or bad during the school days? And basic virtue is competence, school event, participation in the school events. What can be other similar cases related to this stage? Then adolescent psychosocial development, psychosocial conflict and identity versus confusion. Who am I? They think themselves. They reflect someone else's identity. So who am I? How will they finalize that he or she? The basic value is fidelity, the social relationships.
They dress up like all the heroes. They do hair cutting like the heroes, and sometimes they feel that being dressed up like this, I'm the hero, or they want to recognize themselves. Like in this age, children are doing, children go in the wrong way, like they do smoking and they feel that now I'm the hero, because in the movies heroes are doing smoking and they feel cool, like, and by that they get addicted by the and they in that situation. So these are major.
Yes, they think that smoking, drinking is a status symbol for them. Thank you. Then there are different theories of development, like social culture theory, cognitive development. Social learning theory, psychosocial development, attachment theory, and behavioral child development theory. These are different theories of development. But the major developmental theories are socio-cultural theory of development, social learning theories, attachment theory, and behavioral theory. These are the four basic developmental theories that we come across in day-to-day life. This is socio-cultural theory of development. A person's cognitive development is largely influenced by their surrounding culture. This socio-culture in the society, when they interact in the society, they are mostly influenced by the society, and they want to do it in the same manner. Then what to know about social learning theory? People can learn through observation, social learning theory, society. What they observe, the child observes, he or she tries to do the same thing. Mental states are important to learning. When the child is coming to school, when the child is small, they imitate others. They observe and they function. But when a school-going child is mostly into books, into learning, then learning does not necessarily lead to behavior change. Like we cannot say that if we are learning, we are good, this will change our behavior. Behavior is the result of our own self and society. Then the attachment theory, the different stages of attachment. Pre-attachment, when the child is born. Birth to 6 weeks, baby shows no particular attachment to specific caregiver, because they are very small. They don't know. They are in their own self. They don't know whom they are with and with whom who all are around them. They are unaware of the environment. Then next is indiscriminate. 6 weeks to 7 months. When the baby is 6 weeks to 7 months of age, infant begins to show preference for primary and secondary caregivers like mother, father, who are close to them. if they have a younger brother, elder brother or sister to them, or grandparents, they are the caregivers and they get attached to them, and they learn recognizing them. And for example, a child of 6 weeks to 7 months, when they are in our hands, they don't cry. But whenever someone outsider or some stranger comes and asks the child to carry, the child starts crying. Then discriminate attachment, 7+ months. Infant shows strong attachment to one specific caregiver, that is the mother. And multiple 10+ months, multiple growing bonds with other caregivers. They share a special bond with the other family members, the caregivers, not the outsiders or the people in the society. Then behaviorist learning theory. Main tenet is that all behavior is caused by a corresponding external stimulus. We respond because of the some stimulus from other. If I am scolding a child or my own son, that means he or she has done something wrong. That is why I am scolding. So the stimulus gives us the chance to respond to the stimulus. So this is behavior. We cannot say that my behavior cannot change. It will change according to the situation. Behavior is determined by the environment through either association or reinforcement. If I am associated with something, or same as reinforcement, if some external stimulus is affecting me, then I behave in that manner. The 5 developmental domains of early childhood. There are different developmental domains of early childhood. By the age of 5, a child should be competent in these areas of development. These 5 areas. Emotional maturity. The child should be able to deal with feelings age appropriately and separate from parent, guardian. Fearful or impulsive and able to focus, because by this time, the age of 5, a child moves out from the house and is into the environment. The child starts going to the school. So emotional maturity is very much important to deal with their feelings, emotional feelings, with friends, with school, even with parents, with teachers. The next is physical health and well-being. Good fine and gross motor skills. Is independent in looking after own needs. Physically prepared for school and able to sustain energy levels throughout the day. And the children in this age group, they are very energetic. School-going children, and they are independent in doing whatever they feel. If you stop them from doing it, they will not stop. They will say, when they are in front of me, they will say that we will not do it, or this will not happen. But they do what they want to do. And their energy level never is throughout the same for the whole day. Social competence. This can play and get along with other children, follow rules and instructions, routines, and accepts responsibility for actions while showing respect for others. Like for example, in school, the children play with other children. They follow rules. Like if they are playing some game, they follow the game rules of the game and instructions in the class. Instructions, follow instructions given by the teacher, and routines and accepts responsibility. Like when they are studying routine evenings, they are having 8 periods and they have recess after the 4th period. So they cannot go out of the class after the 2nd or the 3rd period on their own. They have to follow the routine for the day when they are in school. And responsibility for actions. That if they are told to do something or asked to perform or recite a poem in front of the class, they need to come forward and do the same. And respect. They should show respect to elders and others, even their classmates. Then communication skills and general knowledge. Communication needs and wants in a socially acceptable way. The child will have to communicate in such a way that it is pleasing. They cannot use abusive languages and other things. Tell stories, says words clearly, and has an age-appropriate knowledge. And the knowledge is also grows according to the age. And life and the world, and an ability to take part in imaginative play. Like language and thinking skills. Shows an age-appropriate interest and ability in reading, writing, language and counting skills. Shape, size and color, recognition and easily remembering things. This varies from child to child. The cognitive thinking capacity of each and every child is different. Same if we see in standard 1 in a child, we can see child with a good handwriting and good handwriting completes his or her work on time. But in the same class of the same age group, the children are not able to write alphabets also. So this needs to be taken care of. Why is child development necessary? Child development is necessary for family. In family, the development of the child, he or she will try to relate him or herself to the family, other relatives. Then identity. If the child will develop accordingly, then they will create their own identity. They will be able to create their own identity if the child growth and development is according to the age and appropriate. Education. The development, the child's psychological development is also necessary for education. Because this education is an important part of their life. They cannot do without it. Emotional development. This child development will result in the emotional development of the child. The child will be able to give a response or react to the different aspects. Health. The development, growth and physical growth, the shape and size of the body will grow according to the age, and they will be able to perform different functions. Self-care skills, like children when they are small, they are infants or toddlers, they are not able to take care of their own selves. They are totally dependent on elders. So as they develop, they will learn to take care of their own self and their own belongings. Social presentation. Now, according to the development, they learn from the society, and they also will become dependent, and they learn how they want to present themselves in the society, how they need to behave, how they need to move and talk, communicate, and relationships. And as the child develops, he or she learns to identify their relations with the different members of family or the relatives. Understanding the hardest job kids face today is learning good manners without seeing any. This is the hardest thing because they learn what they see around them. And the hardest job for kids facing today is learning, and this good manners is very important in their development. Understanding a child is a priority. The child needs you. And child development helps to empathize with the role of nature in play in his life. And the child is your mirror because the child observes you to imitate their elders and the people around them. So the child is your mirror. Can you relate something with the physical development, the first stage of child development? What can the other aspects be on the physical development? The brain, the development of the brain, the nervous system, or the motor skills, the language. Physical development.
There is this written about brain and nervous system. When we used to teach in the primary section, the students over there, we used to teach them the first color red. And in order to teach them, the first shape was circle. We used to make it with a cardboard and we used to make them understand this round, round, round. This is circle. So the way we teach them, that is the developing, that's the developing time. How we teach them, they are grasping. We teachers are supposed to, actually, we are the facilitators of development in the first place. Okay, and brain and nervous system development, when we talk about children, the infant's experience helps to fine-tune the brain's response to stimulation and motor ability. Brain mutation allows the development of motor skills from reflexes to coordinated motors. Thank you.
For the primary children, that we, the other teachers, we can do the regular physical exercise in our PH period. That also very, very important. And also we can do the meditations in the classrooms that students, they can, from their childhood, they can control their mind and they can be improve their discipline. So I think it is the one way that we can improve by through our physical exercise and the meditations.
Thank you, Shania. Thank you, Sunita teacher. Okay. Thank you.